Top Gun here with you. You gotta learn to earn.
Base God on the blockchain.
Gotta learn to earn. Gotta learn to earn. Learn. Fun with numbers, folks. Fun with numbers, folks. Let's do some math. Swing trade and get you wrecked. Don't do it. Swing trade and get you wrecked. Don't do it. Gotta learn to earn. Learn to earn. Gotta learn to earn. Let's check the crystal ball. Crystal ball. Let's check the crystal ball. Crystal ball. I am not a financial advisor, but here's how I'm gonna burn my money. Burn my money. Burn my money. I am not a financial advisor. Well, hello, folks. Top Gun here with you for a live stream edition. Hope you guys are excited for this. I am trying to get Gamma on Crypto on to talk here about various elements of the Pulse Chain ecosystem, how it runs, go a little deep dive. And unfortunately, we seem to be having a little bit of technical difficulties at the moment as, I haven't been able to get Gamma in here yet. He tried joining but got stuck in the waiting room, so I'm trying to get that worked out, but just want to say hello to you guys. I like being punctual, so if we have to reschedule this, we will. I will still try and do some entertaining content, but hopefully we can still get Gamma in here. Let's see who we've got today. Oh, Red Squirrel, it is awesome to see you. Awesome. Squirrel strategy. Mr. Prophet 74, what's up? Welcome, sir, to the show. Myramid 1CA, welcome. And Adam Martin, welcome. Nice little group we've got today. So, all right, still nothing. Let's see here. Yeah, still not sure what's going on. You're in the waiting room. So at least you're on the chat here. It does not show you in my waiting room like before when you joined. You tried leaving the waiting room and coming back in? Ay. Oh, no worries, Red Squirrel. I don't think I've done a live stream in a while. I do a lot of pre-recorded. Usually it's only if I've got a guest on do I go for the live stream. I like to make sure I'm entertaining. Dodeca. So I just even heard that Dodeca even exists yesterday. So do I have an opinion on it? No. But do I have an opinion at the alarming rate of tokens that are just appearing? So did Alex Whitaker program Dodeca? Is it part of Icosa and Hedron? If so, I'm going to ask Alex about it. He might have some good words. If it has nothing to do with his software, it's another token that has popped up that probably adds no useful protocols. But I do see Gamma on Crypto coming into our waiting room finally. Beautiful. So now I can say joining us is Gamma on Crypto from blockfaction.io. So we're going to do a deep dive on the software that makes Pulse Chain work and the Blockfaction private RPC. Let's bring him in here. And you guys might also remember my usual segment here, Q hate for the altcoins. Well, fun times. It's a trap. There's no token. So we're just going to go into
All
question.
right.
Camel.
Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Well, I can hear you. You're a
Yeah.
black screen, but at least I can hear you.
Yeah,
And
I
this,
can. I don't know what's going on because I was able to see it before.
yeah,
But
you're
let
on here,
me.
and I did see your face. You have one, but this is kind of
I
ironic.
do. I do. Yeah. So
We
I'm trying to figure out
we were
settings in
joking
here.
about this being the debut of your face. People actually getting to see you.
I know, right? I literally had it working before,
Yeah.
and then it's not working again. So I have no idea. Yeah, I don't know.
Well,
It was showing when I was in the waiting room before.
mhm.
It was showing I was able to see it before. So
Weird.
let me get out and go in Safari because
All
it
right, let's
says
try this one.
Safari is probably because I'm in the browser that's within Twitter instead of Safari.
That
So
might
let
make
me
a
just
difference.
1 second, just one more minute, guys.
Okay. All right, guys. We're just trying to sort out these technical difficulties. Make sure that entertainment quality is actually up there. We did do a sound check and everything. I promise. We made sure this worked. That's the beauty of technology. Though. Just because something works the first time you try it, if you don't repeat the process the exact same, things can change. Like a link working through one browser or another. Technology is interesting like that. That's why software is hard and takes so long. We have gamma, excuse me, and we have a face.
Yeah, it's hello. Yeah, it it only works with Safari apparently. I looked on the. I haven't done one of these streams before since nobody's seen my face, and like I'm not a YouTuber, so yeah, apparently Safari. So it's no big deal. Um, yeah, I'm like in my car because my sons are actually in a trampoline park, so this is a good. We got like plenty of time, like two
Nice.
hours, however long you need, to
All right.
chat. I'm fine. Um, so yeah, so it's great to be on your show.
All right, nice. So I've got this broken into three talking points. So I'll lay these out so that way when you get talking, maybe you don't blur them. You'll have an idea how to keep them a little separated. And before we even dive into those, I think just want to ask a little bit for our viewers, like how you got involved into crypto and how you got turned on to Richard Hart's projects. And the three talking points are basically, let's start simple. Physically, what kind of computers interact with blockchain and what do they do, such as nodes, validators, and RPCs? Because to me, that's
Sure.
simple.
Yeah,
The
I
second
mean,
point would be blockchain normally provides RPC, so why would they need a second one like yours? And the infrastructure pulse chain test net, like we'll talk a little more in depth in that. So yeah, if you don't mind starting off,
sure,
how did you get into crypto?
sure. I got into crypto in March of 2017. That's when I finally, like, I literally just went to the Ethereum website and started reading about Ethereum in
Mhm.
March of 2017 in the last semester of my MBA. And then, so I graduated in May of that year, and I was learning about Ethereum. I ran a full node on Ethereum, full nodes on Bitcoin, like the basic stuff, like more technical than maybe like a regular user would do. But I want to know about like what's going on, like what even is like a blockchain. I even don't even know. At that point, I'd been in operations for like 20 years in the Army, got out, was in a company doing manager stuff, um, basically in charge of the building and the facilities and distribution and production and like kind of a higher level mid manager kind of a role, out of the military. So in my last semester of my MBA, which I did concurrently with that, I found Ethereum and I was like, okay, great. And then I got caught into the ICO craze of 2017, the summer. Um, People that were in crypto at that time will know what I'm talking about. It was like every other day there was like 1,500 ICOs that popped up wanting your money. So
Mhm.
I got involved in one of those that actually failed. So I was heavily involved in their community, and they produced a blockchain, but it never was really like what they promised it would be. Although it was functional, and I did a lot of work for them for like 2 years, and then they basically like went out of business. Like a lot of startups, they thought they were going to do something great, and it ended up like not doing anything. So I did that for like 2 years. Basically went back to work doing operations again for another big company in the States. And in I guess around 2018, I guess it was when Richard was doing the CFD token. When he was
Okay.
talking about CFD token, that's when I learned about him. I started watching his videos. So I'm like pretty early, like following Richard Hart. So this was, 2017, like, it wasn't 2017, but it was like 2018, early 2018 probably when he was doing that. And then he transitioned to Bitcoin Hex, and then all the development and all the updates on that. And I was like, okay, well, that sounds great, because like honestly, when CFD token was being like pitched and worked on, and like he talked about it, I was like, it doesn't sound very interesting. Like, what is this thing even gonna do? I was like, I'm probably not gonna put money into that. And so I was basically just following because he had so much knowledge about crypto, currency, and Bitcoin. And he was one of the like kind of the Bitcoin people that I was following at that time. And then he was talking about this CFD token thing, and I was like, okay, well. And then he pivoted to Bitcoin Hex, and then that was end up going into Hex, and then they launched December 3rd, 2019. So I was in Hex at that time.
Okay.
But I'm not like a whale. Like, I literally had like zero money at that time. Coming out of the military, working a manager job, having a family, just dollar cost average into Hex after some prior investments, like this project that I was on before. Basically, I made a couple, maybe $20,000-$30,000 on. It wasn't like that much money, really. It was like a 5x or something I made on that thing, and then it failed. So I was like, okay, I came out 5x ahead, which is better than you're going to do in traditional markets, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, and then learned about Hex. Got in there day one. I was under like my real name at that time in the Hex community. So obviously, like, nobody knows me from like those days, because I'm using a different handle now. Like, I'm taking my physical security more important, right? I'm not using my real name. Although, I mean, I guess if you work with me, then you'll know who I am. It's not like I'm super secret. I'm not like Richard Hart, who's trying to be so secret you don't even know where I live. I live in the U.S. I live in Dallas. Like, I have a family. I have kids and a wife, and I just do my thing. And that's really where the idea for Block Faction and my RPC service, because even from the very beginnings of my Bitcoin and cryptocurrency Ethereum journey, I really wanted to like run servers, and I really thought, well, maybe I could do mining. But then mining's not really that profitable unless you can be like a major player. So I could never make the math work. Like, the math just doesn't work for like a single miner in their house. Like, it just doesn't work. You got to have like a contract. I mean, I don't know to go off, but I'm saying that mining doesn't work. I was one of their own servers. I did 15 years of like Linux, like sysadmin, like running programs on Linux, like as a hobby, just like learning how to do it. And that really fed into crypto, because it's running servers and like syncing a blockchain. So there's that. Like that's kind of like my genesis, my origin story when it comes to Richard Hart and his projects.
Right
Now I'm
on.
an admin in a lot of the chats, so I'm trying to help out where I can.
Yeah, I want to say thank you again. I've seen you step up in the Pulse Dev chat over and over again, keeping that thing on point as much as you can. Really love the involvement you've taken into the community. So yeah, the fun thing, folks, is when I talk to Gamma, so after hearing all that, he refers to himself as a layperson when he's got a very significant understanding of computers that most people don't. So I love the fact that you've come on here to talk with me today. Because yeah, what you say, I'm going to try and break down just a little bit more for English for some people.
We can go as deep as you want. I usually lose people about 30 seconds in, but it's fine, right?
Yeah, well, at least I know enough about how Web 1.0 was built that I can at least track and follow most of what you're saying. So yeah, I'll do my best to dumb it back down to English, because yeah, crypto markets are quite a thing, and trying to understand how they work, what's behind them, just makes so many people's heads explode. Like, just for me jumping in because I just got involved back in November with Hex. So doing my back study, like I was looking at some of the coins that tried to come out from 2017, like Steemit and Filecoin were two of the ones that were proposed, so I could actually see like one epic fail and one, well, you just barely lasted, but yeah, the blockchain's not really meant for mass data storage. So, I mean, seeing the different concepts come and go, it's made me very interested in the technology that goes behind blockchain, both physically and in the protocols. So, anytime I can do a little bit of a deep dive, I love it. So, thank you so much for coming
Yeah,
on.
no problem. I mean, what the most you're going to do with a blockchain with data is have a file, create a hash, publish the hash, so you can see if there's any changes to, like that's what a blockchain is.
Yeah.
So you can link that. That's what that's what an NFT is. Like it's an off, like it's the file stored off the blockchain, like outside of the ecosystem, and there's a hash that's on the blockchain that proves your ownership. Like,
Oh,
and then you just do
yeah.
that with file, like with storage, in a more sophisticated way.
But
I
the
don't even
idea,
know much about Filecoin, but like basically that's how it's going to work.
well, the idea with blockchain is, I mean, you only get so much block height per block. There's only so much data you can put in there. So, I mean, the transaction hashes are ideally mostly all you want in there. But Filecoin uses decentralized file storage. So, I mean, it can be trading to write megabytes or gigabytes to the block and just burning through the block space and the transactions with overload, basically.
There's an upper bound when it comes to block size that you're not putting movies on the blockchain. Like you're not doing that. It's like there's no way. So decentralized file storage has been done for like 20 years. I did it when I was in college in 2000 2004.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
But
Torrents
that,
are decentralized file storage, but you're
yeah.
not. But in a different way for a different
But yeah,
purpose.
like that's peer to peer, like direct file storage though for access as opposed to the decentralized file storage. Like I think Filecoin's really cool. It's just it doesn't make sense for mass amounts of data as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, that's what I'm just saying. That technically, it's like, I mean, somebody's got to pay for it, and
Hmm.
there's like proven technologies that store data. I mean, you can still store the data, and then in a way that makes sure that the data isn't altered with
Hmm.
hashes. Unlike, there you go, right? You can store the data off-site in some data center, and then you can just store the hashes, and you can see if it's been altered, so you can prove that you got a reliable, good copy of it through, I mean, like BitTorrent or something,
Hmm.
right? I mean, like
Yeah.
that's technology is like 20 years old.
Yeah, it is, but it's amazing how far it's come along. Like I remember when I first saw the technology behind Bitcoin back in like 2010. Unfortunately, I didn't understand how liquidity pools worked or how it could print money, but I understood the value of its encryption. So I'm glad I've been gotten back to and gotten to meet so many awesome people like yourself. But rather than just ramble on about this, let's bring to the first point. So
Sure.
physically, yeah, what kinds of computers do we have that interact that make a blockchain work through all the hashing? And yeah, so what
Yeah.
are these types and what do they do?
So, I mean, so basically, Pulsion has a copy of Ethereum. So there are several different types of servers, but they're all basically one type of server, but they have like additional functionality you just turn on.
Hmm.
So you have like a light client, like a light full node, which basically stores like block headers. Like that's it. They just store block headers, and then they purge. Just say in Ethereum, it's like the last 128 blocks is usually what they say when they talk about full nodes.
Hmm.
So they sync all the block headers, which is, and then they link those together, and then there's a bunch of data inside those blocks. So it's like how much of that data do you retain? So in a full node, like a general full node, like a normal RPC server, or even a validator, which are the kind of the two. But there's only three. So you have a validator, which produces blocks, which is a
Hmm.
full node, but it produces blocks. That's called a validator. Then
Okay.
you have a full node that is just storing the database, like the blockchain, and it's storing most of the information in the last 128 blocks of the like current 128 blocks. But then
Okay.
it like gets rid of the last like the ones that are older than that. Like
Okay.
a lot of the data that's in the blocks, transactions, a lot of the state transitions, like all that stuff is like not stored in a regular full node. It's only the 101st, 128, and which comes out to like maybe around 30 minutes of time, Ethereum
Okay.
time, right? 128 blocks, 13-second blocks, 128 blocks comes out to 27 minutes or something like that. It's like almost 30 minutes of time, like current time, that a full node retains, so that people can access that data, in real time, and they don't have to do a lot of recompiling. Now, there's a thing called an archive node, which is also something I'm going to run.
Okay.
Now, a lot of what that does, it actually takes the entire state of the blockchain back to Genesis, and it retains all of the transaction connections and all the state changes, like the state from block 0 to block 1, from block 1 to block 2. It retains all that information, so that if you needed that information for some reason, then you could call it from the database quicker than replaying all those transactions that you need, which would take time. Now, there's not that many. If block explorers are one type of application that need that, analytics, like programs like that do analytics, need that kind of program. I mean, there's a lot of different uses for it. But with Pulse Chain having 3-second blocks, I mean, that's like 6 minutes of time where the full node has like the actual current full states, right? It's keeping a
Okay.
state copy, like a full copy of all the transactions that happen, all the contracts calls, all the smart contracts, the state transitions, right? All the people moving tokens around within that contract, and like when people just a bunch of random like people using that dApp, then the 128 blocks, which is for 6 minutes for Pulse Chain, all that data is available very easily. But a full node can go back and can replay that and then get that data, but it just takes longer. So it just depends on like what you need. I'm going to be running an archive node for people who need that. I'll be running the full node cluster. So basically 2 different clusters of servers. So those are like the types of like servers, like clients, right? They use the same. Pulse Go is the name of the client that we're using. It's a fork of Ethereum Go, so we call it Pulse Go, right? And they forked that a year and a half ago, making changes to it. I can't really talk about like what they're doing now, right? Which everyone wants to know what they're doing now, and I can kind of like just speculate, but I'd rather not, because
Yeah.
unless I actually have the code to look at, I actually can talk to a dev and say, what did you change, so that I can explain it to people. I have not been able to do that. So I can just, sometimes I'll get on to voice chat and I'll say, well, knowing what I know about blockchain and Ethereum, these are some of the things that I think are happening, like reasons why.
Well, that's the
But we're not, but that's off topic for like now. We can go into
yeah.
that a little bit later. But so like for validators, right? To get back on topic, we're talking about servers, right? So to be a validator for Pulse Chain, you need to be in a data center. You need redundant internet. You need redundant power. You need professionally managed servers, because you want your uptime to be 100%. You need the ability to either make your own data center, which is like, I know of people who've said they're going to make their own data center, which you can do that. I mean, I could build my own data center with redundant internet, redundant power, in its own little building that it has the highest level of internet connection, like to the ISP possible. I mean, but that would cost money. But what I do is I use DigitalOcean, because they already have data centers all over the world, and I can just use them, and I can scale up my servers as I need, like on the fly, right? And then I remote, on a command line on my computer. I just remote in, I just do what I need to do. And then if I need to make, say, like an archive node for me is going to be like 32 gigs of RAM. It's going to be, it's like almost 12 terabytes of data. So it's pretty expensive to run. So it's not like awesome. But a full node Depends on your load, right? Even 32 gigs depends on your load because I'm a public RPC. So the
Mm-hmm.
more connections, the more users I have, the more RAM I need, the more CPUs I need, and then hardware requirements go up. Well, what I can do is I can just power those down, and then power up with 64 gigs of RAM or 128 gigs of RAM. Like I use I'm paying for what I need at the time, and I'm not like buying hardware and then I go, oh crap, I I bought this computer, it cost me $20,000, and then crap, now I have to triple my RAM and I have to do all these manual. Well, no, I don't have to do any of that. I can just use DigitalOcean, and they already have managed data centers, and it's fine, right? It's no problem at all, right? And then so validators, a lot of them are in data centers. They're in AWS data centers, maybe DigitalOcean, maybe another vendor, right? That's not a problem because it's going to have the connectivity, the uptime, and as long as the person behind the keyboard knows what they're doing to configure it properly and run it and pay the bill, right? Then that validator will be up and it won't get slashed. And you'll see it on the website that it doesn't have any slashes and it just functions fine.
Nice. All right. So if I can interject for a moment, a little bit of English.
Oh, yeah. So
Yeah.
translate.
Yes, some translating. So, talking about this, the validators basically are just doing the cliff notes really quickly for the recent information. The nodes are just keeping track of those validators, making sure the cliff notes are all right. Then, meanwhile, your full nodes, the archive nodes, are your great libraries of Alexandria that have the detail of everything listed so that you can verify everything. And all three of these elements are important working together because this large library is so heavy and bulky to move, it would slow everything down to need to reference it all the time. So you have these smaller, compact ones so they can move quicker and be easily accessed. And together, this makes the blockchain function a little bit smoother. And then you're
Yeah.
diving into how you're running your services instead of spending all the money and the headaches of trying to keep a secure building with all the infrastructure you need. You're basically just hosting it out like a lot of the other internet does to Amazon and saying, hey, can I rent your hardware to run my software safely for a while?
Yes. So it's the access to it. I mean, so the the full nodes all talk to each other, and they're syncing the blocks that are being created by the validators. I take those blocks and I validate them myself, like that they're true, right? And then I add them to
Mm-hmm.
my own database, and those will get synced around the world, right? All the validators, all the full nodes sync the same database. That's like a blockchain, basically how blockchains work. Now, what I'm providing is like external access, like to you anybody who needs it, companies, and it's just an API service. That's literally what it is. Like I have an open, publicly available URL, like endpoint through Nginx, which is a reverse proxy. Like it's like Apache. Most
Okay.
people have either heard of Nginx or Apache. Usually Apache, PHP, usually. So it's just like Apache, Nginx, reverse proxy. So basically, what you do is you just take my endpoint into MetaMask, then on testnet it's 941 chain ID. Um, you plug that in there. Now your computer, with MetaMask, talks to my server or cluster of servers
Mm-hmm.
through Cloudflare because I use Cloudflare for DDoS and for load balancing.
Okay.
So I basically manage the servers. So I can put a server in San Francisco. I can put a server in New York. I put a server in Singapore, Germany. Like all the different data centers that are around the world. I can put one in each of them, so they're geographically decentralized. So if any one data center goes down, then it doesn't really matter. Like it's offline for a while, it doesn't really impact anything. You're fine. Cloudflare is also global, and what they do, which is nice, is say I had a server in Singapore and I had a server in San Francisco. Well, once what I have is large enough and like enough users where I can actually afford to have servers in every data center, the person that's in Singapore, it would automatically get routed to the node that's closest to them. And then somebody in the US will probably get routed to the US one. But then it's dynamic routing, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
basically just which one's the closest one? Okay, I'm gonna route the guy there. Is that online? Okay, if it's not online, okay, it knows that, and then it goes to like the one in Germany. Like it's no big deal. It does that like on the fly in the back end. Because Cloudflare really helps protect like so many websites, and it protects against DDoS attacks on, APIs and websites like already like for so many companies that I'm
Mhm.
basically just plugging in to their infrastructure as like a small player, but it's easily done. Right, it's not even a problem for me. I can add another server at any time, and for the last like 9 months, I've been running on testnet, like learning how to use Cloudflare, making sure my servers are up, telling people, hey, use my service on testnet, try and break it if you can, right? Tell me of any problems, and I'm like, so far it's been no problem at all. Now the true test will be on mainnet, but it's basically like the same. The more users I have, the more server capacity I need.
Mhm.
That's why it can't be a free service. Like I couldn't open it up to like everybody to use, and then everybody would use it and be like, "Why don't I have any money for servers?" That's not very helpful because I'm not a rich person. Like I do fine. I mean, I was early in Hex, so I'm doing okay.
No, but
But
and
I'm not doing okay enough where I can just for free
yeah.
allow everybody in the universe to use free servers with no cost, right? Because I don't have a token. There's never going to be a
Mhm.
token. It's literally a traditional networking problem that requires traditional like solutions. So
Yeah.
it's basically like you sign up for a subscription, and then you get like X amount of bandwidth a day, and then it's a million calls a day for like $100 ish, 99, and then you can scale up as you need. Um, and then I'll just manage the cluster of servers, which I've been doing for like 9 months. It's actually pretty easy. Um, So it's like for me, it's not even a problem. I can just do it by myself, and I don't expect there to be like a huge amount of demand anyway. And teams will run their own servers, their own RPC servers for their own team, like needs a lot of the time.
Now, something I found interesting in this evolution, because yeah, you said you haven't even had any issues with being attacked, so you'd like people to try and break you. Interestingly enough, like I was eavesdropping as you were talking about the changes you were making to the RPC, because you originally built it. You had your RPC architecture basically in one box, one stop, but that box handles two protocols, if I understand correctly: Windows Socket and SSL, if I'm not butchering that.
Well,
And then
I mean,
you made this move to separate the two of them and hide them behind another layer, another box, like another hop.
well,
And
no, so what I have is you route your network through Cloudflare servers, like it's
Mhm.
edge service, which is massive, and then it routes the transaction to a origin server, which is my server that hosts PulseGo, that actually
Okay.
has the full node, and then between that is Nginx, which it does the encryption, SSL encryption, and then there's two types of service. There's the WebSocket service,
Mhm.
and then RPC service. And WebSocket is basically data flow. You can connect it, and you can get data, two-way data back and forth. And RPC is basically you do a call through the service, then get a
Mhm.
response through JSON like format. So there's like two different ones. The traditional one
Okay.
is like the one that you use in your MetaMask wallet is like RPC
I
service
see.
where you have 10, 15 calls, get balance, get block, get like all these different
Mhm.
methods they call it, to like you call the method, it routes it, gets the information, comes back, displays it on your display, like no big deal.
Okay.
DApp teams may need WebSocket data, which I can also provide, like if you need, but I'm not going to open that on mainnet like just to anybody
Mhm.
because it's gonna right. It's like there's actually no reason for it to be completely open for anybody to use. But if you need it, I can get it to you. Like it's no big deal.
Mhm.
Um, yep. So
Okay. No, like I just, for me, it's the little things that interest me. So I mean, if I understand correctly, so the RPC and the Windows socket normally would all function on the same machine, and people wouldn't really worry
well,
about.
it's all one machine though.
Oh, you didn't? I thought.
It's
Oh,
all
okay.
it's all Nginx. So it's not it's so you have the client, which is
Yeah.
PulseGo here, PulseGo, and
Hmm.
then right on top of it is a Nginx, which is in a reverse proxy. It's on the same machine.
Okay.
And then 8575 is the port for PulseGo, and then what it does is it will reverse proxy, basically just takes 8575 port with encryption, SSL encryption through from Cloudflare, so it securely communicates with Cloudflare. So you can't
Okay.
just like go in like elsewhere. You have to go through Cloudflare's services to get to my server. So
Mm.
it takes 8575 port, translates it to 4043
Okay.
443 SSL,
Secure. Yeah.
right?
Secure
And then
socket
it
layer.
then it connects to Cloudflare, encrypted, and then
Hmm.
it's routed through Cloudflare's network, and then it
Oh,
talks to your server.
okay.
But I'm running, like right now, I'm running two servers that are each load balanced
Hmm.
to Cloudflare, and I'm just
Okay.
leveraging their expertise, right? Nginx, I could actually run my own load balancing server as a go between, which is kind of what you're
Hmm.
thinking of. I
Yeah.
could do that, but then I wouldn't be leveraging Cloudflare's DDoS protection and they're like a global cloud provider. So
Okay.
it'd be actually like it would be less secure if I did that than rather than more secure.
That makes sense now. That makes a lot of sense. And thank you for dumbing it down over the Web 1.0 guys had with secure socket layer 443, port 80. Oh my
Mm-hmm.
God. Now I'm having PTSD of configuring email for port
Yeah, I
110.
mean, mine's I have. I mean, my eight. If you call unsecure, then you're just gonna get forwarded to the secure one automatically. Like that's
Yeah.
not a that's a two lines of code in Nginx, right? So
Yeah.
it's like that's not a problem at all. But it's a configuration thing you need to know about,
Hmm.
right? Otherwise, now your server is like unsecure. So if you have both open, then somebody could just bypass the secure one and just access unsecure, and you're like, well, that didn't really help me out much. So there's a lot of details that come into, and then one of the very first things I did that I took like me 2 months to do was trial and error on default servers in data centers are like the most restrictive settings that you can, if you go into the configurations, like Linux configuration files,
Hmm.
you can change the settings so that it opens it up to like the max amount possible. The
Yeah.
problem is you need to know enough about Linux to be able to know where to go so that, say, it's limited to like 100 connections at a time.
Hmm.
Well, I mean, I'm trying to scale where I can have like 50,000
Yeah.
connections at a time. Like I've tested my servers on, like two servers running, um, whatever, and like 50,000 connections at a time, running like a million calls a minute, like going through, and then I kind of maxed out the load balance, the load testing software because I didn't need to pay for a higher one. That's enough because I barely have any traffic right now
Hmm.
because I'm just getting started. But I've load tested it for like the load that I really want to be able to provide. That's not a problem. But in that process, you start finding like problems. So you go, okay, why is this being? Why are only like 200 people allowed to connect to my servers at any one time? It should be in the thousands. And you go,
Yep.
okay, well, great. Then I have to go in and change all these server level, like lower level Linux sysadmin kind of functions that like a normal user wouldn't have to really worry about,
Hmm.
and just tweak everything to make it more efficient and to open it up, right? So you're maxing out the CPU usage. You're maxing out as best possible the RAM usage. So these data providers like DigitalOcean, they don't turn that stuff on by default because they don't want people to abuse their servers. They want people who actually like know what they're doing to, if they need to open it up. And then those types of people are probably going to be the types that aren't going to, abuse their abuse their hardware, right? So yeah, that's like one of those little tweaks that you end up needing to know. It's like base layer, like just experience as a Linux sysadmin knowledge, because even if you ran an RPC with the base configurations, you're not anywhere close going to get the type of throughput that I'm getting.
No.
Because you need to know how to configure your servers properly and how to how they're going to link together, and then technology needs to configure on top of that. Because if for me, it's like load balancing, DDoS protection, reverse proxy, Nginx configurations. Then it's like bare metal Linux server configurations all together, so that I can get the most throughput for the least amount of cost possible, so that I can basically run a service that's going to be up like 100% of the time. There's no reason why it shouldn't be, unless well, hell, even if a data center went down, there's the other data center is up, so it's like that's not a problem, right? That's why you do geographically decentralized data servers for the origin, and then Cloudflare is actually global. So it's not like they're running in some data center in like Iowa, right? Like we're a global platform, but we only have one data center, and we have like 10 computers in Iowa. So you're like, okay, so if the power goes out in Iowa during a snowstorm, your entire network goes down. Not very global, is it? So so blockchains need to be decentralized geographically. So like the validators on Pulse Chain, right? They're gonna be around the globe. RPC services need to be, global, around the globe, and you need to think about these things. And they're not really not that hard problem. It's literally takes like a little bit of thought. And if you I've been thinking about it for like 9 months. So like, how do I do this so that it's up and it just functions? It should be pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
I went on vacation in July and I never had a single problem. But the problem is there was no load on the network, and I'm not getting accounts in. I don't have to configure, create account creation and all that stuff, which is a small business. To what it comes down to. Like, I think of me as like the corner store of RPCs. Like, it's there when you need me. You can talk to the owner. Like, you're fine. If you have a problem, you just talk to me. I'll fix your problem. But I'm not Amazon.
Well,
Like, I wouldn't mind being Amazon one day, but right now I'm the corner store that's giving you a soda, and if the soda's broken, then I'll just give you another one and I'll fix your problem, right?
See, and I love that you're there doing that, but a lot of people don't understand, why would they need a secondary RPC that you set up with all of this? Like, you put so much thought into it, made the most wonderful backup, and people are like, but don't I already have an RPC for Pulse Chain? Why do
Yeah,
I need this one?
yeah, that's a good point. And so this comes to like the niche that I'm fitting, because most users can just use the dev main RPC fine. So if you're just going to do a transaction on Pulse Chain, or if you're going to do a transaction on PulseX, like an exchange, or if you're going to send a transaction and you're just like a dude who wants to do like a stake of hex, like, okay, the main dev RPC is fine, like until it gets overloaded anyway. Hopefully, I mean, they're going to scale it out, so obviously they're going to be on top of that. So I would expect most users never to have a single problem with the Pulse Dev RPC. The problem is they can't have an endless spout. Right? They're going to have to put limits on individual usage of their RPC to make it's a community good, right? It's community good for everybody to use. Well, you don't want like the number one DApp of like Pulse Chain that has, I don't know, 50,000 users on it, like taking all the bandwidth for the RPC for themselves. And then when you want to do a transaction, if you want to do a PulseX exchange, then there's nothing for you. Like, it's maxed out, and you're like, you can't get any of your transactions through because the behemoth DApp that's using the same RPC just hogs up all the bandwidth. Like, well, the main devs don't want that, right? So if that DApp, if that huge service like that, I'm sure everyone's going to use, there's going to be plenty of awesome DApps on Pulse Chain. I guarantee it. 99% of the stuff is probably going to be trash, but there's still going to be a lot of stuff that's awesome. So like the very top DApps, they're probably going to use their own private RPCs. They're going to pay for service. They're either going to use me. They're going to have somebody local on their own team who makes their own cluster of RPCs. Like they have they make a cluster endpoint just like I've made,
Mm-hmm.
and they just hire somebody and go, okay, great. Well, we need 1 trillion calls a day. I'm not getting that from the public dev RPC, right? Like we hit a rate limit. It's called a rate limit. I mean, they just rate limit it so you can't do that, because if 1 trillion calls a day come from one app, that'd be like a DDoS attack on the RPC. So you're like, okay, well we're going to run our own infrastructure for our our community and our DApp,
Mm-hmm.
and that's fine. They have revenue, they have a business, they're successful, they can pay for somebody to manage their own servers and do that. Well, so if the regular user is served by the Pulse Dev RPC, and then the huge apps are making their own because they can afford, they have the budget to hire a dude and then have their own cluster of RPC servers, and they're all that. There's a middle ground there where like the teams, like maybe you have like 2 dudes, their app is great, awesome, but they don't want to manage their own RPC servers,
Mm-hmm.
but they've exceeded the amount of bandwidth that the dev RPC is allowed. Then I'm here raising my hand going, hey, you can hire me. And if you need 10,000 daily calls, 100 million, well, 10, if you say 10 million daily calls, 100 million daily calls, 1 billion daily calls, I mean, whatever the number is,
Mm-hmm.
it would really just depend on, like, I can serve whatever need you have at like the rate that I would just basically like, here's my rate, $100 ish for 1 million calls a day. And then
Wow.
if you have more than 20 million calls, like 30 million, 50 million calls a day, then I can add some discounts in there because you have a lot of usage. Like no big deal. It's a standard business practices, right? Discount your large players, then your smaller players can like just, they pay $100, $200. It's no big deal for them. And it is all worked out, and I can scale my service to meet whatever needs I have. And I can serve that middle market of
Nice.
people who are building on Pulse Chain, and they probably won't even realize this problem exists until they've gotten big enough for it to be like show up, and they're going to get a bunch of errors using the public RPC,
Mm-hmm.
and they're going to go, crap, I didn't realize this was going to be a problem because I thought we could just use the public dev RPC forever. And then you go, oh, that's not true. There's actually probably rate limits here. So there's going to be a point where if your DApp is successful and it's awesome, then you have to make a decision. You're going to either have to pay somebody like me, or you're going to have to hire somebody on your team, and you're going to run infrastructure yourself. And that's fine. I mean, if your DApp is really large, then yeah, you should probably run your own infrastructure. There's
But delegation
websites that
and
teach you how to do it.
outsourcing, if you're
It's no big
offering that
deal.
service, it's so much more cost effective.
Yeah, I mean, I can just pull everybody's money into my servers, and I can scale it, and I can provide a public RPC that's also rate limited. And then so you can use mine if you want to just test it out and go like, yeah, it functions. It's exactly like the devs. I'm using the exact same client
Mhm.
as the devs. It's a public endpoint.
Yeah.
It's load
Same.
balanced. Like, I mean, like the technologies I'm using are not going to be like the exact thing that the main devs one's using, but it's
Yeah.
basically the same. Like,
Yeah.
are they using Apache instead of Nginx? I don't know. How are they load balancing? Do they do it themselves? Are they outsourcing it? There's a lot of companies that do load balancing. I don't know. But like the layer, right? The
Yeah.
layers
That's
are going
all
to be the
network
same.
topography.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you just like I've chosen solutions for mine needs.
Hmm.
And they're going to have other solutions for their needs, but effectively they're going to be the same thing.
Yeah.
And what for me, like where I'm at right now, is I'm also waiting for Pulse Chain. I have no insight into. I'm in the dev chat. I'm an admin in the dev chat. I have no information ever. I wish I had more information. Honestly, I get the same information that everybody does.
Yeah.
I just have more experience to interpret it. Like I
Yes.
interpret the information the way I interpret it. It's my opinion. So when I'm in voice chat talking about it, I'm like, I have an opinion. I think this is why. We'll know for sure when they release the code. But what I usually say is, I'm not a core dev. I'm not a blockchain dev. I'm devish, right? I'm pretty
Yeah.
dev-like, right? I mean, I'm pretty technical. and the things that I know about anyway, but I'm not a Golang developer. I'm not writing blockchain. I'm not writing Solidity code, even though I've done some Solidity. I mean, I've
Yeah.
deployed contracts to Ethereum before. It's not that hard, really, but I'm not writing complex Solidity contracts, right? I'm not doing like that kind of development, but I can read Solidity because it's important to know that.
Yeah.
But then I learn what I need to know, and most developers, right? They see a problem, they go to Google, they figure out what it is, they trial and error it, and then it fixes their problem, and they moved on, and then they learn something. I've been doing that for 15 years.
Yeah.
As a lay person, just wanting technology, understand what it is. Google is awesome, and it's like takes a long time to learn, like at least at my level, and I don't even consider myself to be that. I'm not that technical. Like I'm not a Golang blockchain developer, but that's a very few people are. So
Well,
I feel okay with not being a blockchain Golang developer.
so this is interesting the way that you break this out from my perspective anyway. I mean, when I started coming crashing back into this space, everyone was talking about devs like they were the bloody wizards of the coast. I'm like, ooh, what is this magical dev thing? It a programmer? Like, okay, you program, so you understand the logic and interface with a system. Now, which programming you choose to use is a language of context, which way they're structuring the command line. So it might be phrased a little different, might have a slightly different writing, but they achieve the same thing. And really, like when I'm coding or we used to code, I mean, my else statements would look like worse than like my family tree expanded out. But I mean, I'm just a script kiddie. Like I'll call myself lay as well, but like the thing is when you spend enough time and interaction, like I guess like I spent enough time doing tech support with the public for years that I spoke to thousands and thousands and thousands of people, and it is amazing how many people can't even get past the point of programming their own VCR. So
Mm-hmm.
um
Yeah.
like I keep laughing every time you call yourself a lay person because you make me feel lay, and I know when I start talking about things I watch my friends eyes gloss over when I'm trying to talk about network traffic or TCP IP protocols, and they're just I don't care. What do you mean IPv6 or IPv4? I don't care. Does my computer go to Pornhub? um and
Well, my thing is, I think when people like I'm a dev, and then that somehow makes you fucking smart and like you know something.
yeah.
What do you know? Tell me what you know. And then they talk, and they're like, okay, that's like there's nothing special about what you just said. You literally like didn't say anything, but
Yeah.
you said you're a dev, so you're gonna tell me something. But perhaps I'm like, okay, or what they said was wrong, clearly wrong. I go, okay,
Mhm.
God, this guy has no fucking idea what he's talking about. Um,
Yeah,
and
that's
you're
why
like, okay, but he's a dev. So you a lot of times like you can have
Mhm.
great devs, you can have great
Yeah.
blockchain devs, or you can have so maybe somebody only learned how to program HTML 30 years ago, but they're a dev. Or like, why would I have an why would his opinion matter with like how Ethereum like Golang porting like why I mean why would that have any bearing on anything? Yeah, you're a developer,
Yeah.
but you're a developer. What kind of expertise? Like no relevant expertise that I can figure out. But you now marketed yourself as a developer, so people are going to listen to you. Like the layperson, like the real layperson who's new to blockchain is going to go, oh, he's a developer, he must know. And then when you say things that aren't true, or like you misrepresent what was actually happening, or you say you have a overinflated opinion of your own expertise, and then you start just saying stuff and like, oh my god, dude, I can't. Now I'm gonna have to deal with this guy because they're gonna come to chat and they're gonna ask me questions about this dude who just went on Twitter, or this dude who just went on and is on YouTube, and he was saying stuff and it's like clearly not even right,
Hmm.
and then I have to deal with it as like tech support and like with Pulse Chain. And every once in a while, most of the devs that are on YouTube do a great job, but then every once in a while there's a dude who's like, oh my god, I just watched that video and I know that I'm gonna, for the next day, I'm gonna be talking to people on chat from this guy who clearly has no understanding of what's going on. And technically, like, I don't know exactly what's going on with Pulse Dev, like, but I'm very forward about that. Like, when you're talking as a developer, if you want to call me a developer, that's fine. I don't give a crap. But I'm developer-ish, sure, but you have to be clearly, like, defined. Like, I don't have any inside information. I'm not a core developer. I have an opinion. I've been in the space for 5 years. I've done a lot of work to understand what's going on. With that being said, here's what I think maybe is going on. You can take that with a grain of salt, because literally nobody has any information at all.
Yeah.
So recently I've seen some developers go on, and they've done a good job of kind of the same thing I can do. We don't actually know what's going on. So they're not wrong.
Okay. No,
Like,
I
okay.
understand. I think I understand a little better. So, like, I was basically like, because, like I said, when I came into the space, the word dev was almost being thrown around like God, like you are the all hail mighty. And a lot of people have taken the mantle and said, well, I'm a dev, I know. When, yeah, you do front end, you do HTML, you don't know a whole lot, because I don't know a whole lot. And all I've ever toyed with is C++ and HTML. So, and a little Java. Like, I'm way out of date. And I've even noticed sometimes when I say stuff that I cause a ripple, and I'm not a dev. You shouldn't be taking what I'm saying so solidly. And I guess I get more where you're coming from. You don't like the title dev because you want to keep the perspective of what your actual information qualifications are.
Yeah, people should understand what I say, and if they think that I add value, then great. But I don't call myself a dev, because I'm not like a professional dev. I don't get a paycheck to write Python for a living, to create like apps, like actual programs. Like, I don't do that. That's what I consider to be a developer. Like, a developer for me in blockchain is somebody who actually writes blockchain code. Like, if you're a Golang developer working on the Ethereum client or the Pulse chain client, then in that respect, for like this thing that you're talking about, you can call yourself a dev. If you're talking about Pulse chain development, I'm not a dev in that regard, even though I understand other technologies and I'm a developer in other ways. So I preface it with, like, I'm not a developer. I want to make that very clear. And I'm not a Golang developer, even though I've studied Golang a little bit, but like, it's like, I'm not writing a program to write, even though I've learned C++, I've did some C, I've done Python, right? I've wrote Python apps before for myself for things I needed to do. I write Bash, sysadmin, configuration servers. I mean, like I can do a bunch of stuff. So when I talk about Pulse development, I can talk about like agile, and I can talk about like the workflow and like how development kind of works, and some overall tools that, like, so you talk about with Pulse Dev, is you have like this blue team, red team thing. And then people are just completely like left field on like what does that even mean? So, okay, so you have red team, blue team. Okay, so you have one group of people loosely organized that wrote a bot that's attacking the network, and then you have this other group that's loosely defined within the single team that are fixing bugs as they find them. They have meetings, and it's not like two separate groups. And there's other people that think that like there's somehow like two separate complete versions of Pulse Chain that are being developed in parallel. You're like, how does that make any sense at all? Like, it's one program, but you could have one branch that has some code in it that they're running on a test net. They could have another branch, right, of the same client running on a different test net, and they're testing both of them, and they're seeing, how it functions, right? And that's possibly something like A/B testing, right? I mean, but I don't know what they're doing because they don't communicate with us. I can just say that's a tool that they could use.
I can comment on that one because like I'm one of the proprietors against, like, I've perpetuated that comment Richard Hart was speaking at one point. He didn't say a whole lot on the matter, but when he was talking about the team splitting up, so this is just after version 2B, and so the 2B network, the way he implied it was the test network that was running that standard code, they were still testing the crap out of it, and if they were confident that it still held up to the stress testing, they would launch it if that stress testing finished before they finished writing the new Golang code. So that seemed to imply, if now he might have said it wrong because he might have been talking about breaking the devs to test the Golang versus write the Golang. I mean, he's not a dev himself, so sometimes he doesn't properly articulate the points across. But I kind of ran with what he was saying, and I think a few other people did too.
Yeah. So I mean, you have V2B, right? You have that network. It's functional right now.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you could test that, and then you continue progress with the changes, which is going to be like version 3, basically. Mm-hmm. So those are two different versions that exist like right now. Like, mm-hmm. Obviously you could test them both, but yeah, I never thought there was like a serious effort to like have parallel networks and they're both competing with each other. So one thing that they did early on, like 6 months ago or something, I'm just like off the top of my head, like say 6 months, I don't know exactly when, they mm-hmm. made system transactions feeless, right? And one of the things about blockchains is the reason there's a fee is so that you can't fill up the blocks costlessly and then spam the network and like crash the network. Like it costs money to do that. And then it's also one of the reasons why, as you add transactions to the blocks, when you add transactions to blocks, then you're bidding up the block space. You're making it more and more expensive. So by the time you get to like 100% of the blocks being filled, then what you're bidding it right up. So it starts at 2 beats or GUI, which are the same. Okay. Beat and GUI are the same unit of measure, right? It's a billionth of a pulse is a beat, which okay. Like in Ethereum, a billionth of a pulse is a billionth of Ethereum is a GUI, like giga GUI, right?
Okay.
The billion. So say that, right? People are confused about that whole thing. We use the term beat in pulse chain, no big deal. But as block space is filled up, then it becomes more expensive to put transactions in there. So to mitigate some entity just like taking a bunch of pulse and then just spamming pulse chain like the blocks, then incrementally the transactions you add in will get more and more and more expensive. And then eventually now you're maxing out the block space, which is fine. You can fill up a block, you can fill up the next block, but those transactions will be very expensive. And then eventually you run out of money. And now you have to go back to the market and you have to buy more money. And like, I'm happy for full blocks to happen because that means Pulse is going to be very rare, lots of fee burning with 25% plus EIP 1559, right? Both in, so some percentage, more than 25% is being burned of the fees. There's been numbers out there. I'm not going to say what the numbers are, but some of the numbers people have said have been pretty ludicrous. But
wait, you mean
more than 25%? So you have 25% built in, plus the EIP 1559 burn.
Yeah, the redundancy burn on top, right?
So it's double. They add together, right? So it's like more than some amount more than 25%. And when we actually have, right? I mean, you can calculate it, I guess, but I haven't really looked at it, so I don't know what the real percentage is to quote it, and which I don't want to do on camera because I haven't done the math.
Rather than do that, like actually, this is a topic where K4K Crypto, going back probably about 5 months ago, he's got one of the dev friends that share information back and forth. So he was going through the actual crunch numbers, and it was amazing how high that burn rate actually got with the redundancy protocol. That what is it? IEEE?
Yeah, the number I read, which I think is the number was like really high. And I was like, I before I would say that number out loud, I would need to confirm it because it seemed like ludicrously high.
Yeah.
Which is I'm cool with. If it's real, awesome. Yeah. But I don't want to perpetuate like a number that I wasn't able to confirm or see for myself, basically.
Yeah, like the
So
math
it's
he
like,
showed tracked, but I mean, I didn't see the source data.
yeah, right. So it's like one of those things where I can look at it. Hopefully somebody makes a website that will track the burn. You know how Ethereum has the burn
Yeah.
website? So
Oh,
something like that for Pulse Chain, right? That you can track it. You can actually see what
yeah.
percentage of the fees are being burned. And then it wouldn't be a static number. It would be like an average, or it'd be like block per block.
Yeah.
But that would be a project for somebody. Put an ad up top of it, and then like run a website. I can provide RPC access for that on the
Yeah.
back end. I'll throw out projects for other people to do, and you're like, hey, you can pay me to provide you blockchain data. I mean, that's
Huh.
what I'm doing. But yeah, there's that. Yeah, there's a number. It was pretty high, which would be great if it's true.
Hmm.
Burns are going to be plenty high enough, no
Well,
matter what.
yeah, burns are going to be high enough. I don't know. Like, there's something weird in my head where, I mean, a lot of the bulls would hate me for saying this out loud, but I mean, sustainability. One of the things that I obviously like, I think a lot of us dislike about ETH is the gas fees, just how far they've cranked up, and uh, with Pulse Chain, the abundant supply and the time it'll take to burn through that supply should actually like limit how fast the chain suddenly ramps up so expensive that your average person can't afford to get on and play with it. So although the
No,
bulls are hoping for this super price action, I'm hoping for sustainable steady growth.
so I mean, the way gas fees are created on Pulse Chain are identical to Ethereum, unless we change them after the fact, which is
Okay.
totally the case. So I'm saying, like at launch, they're going to function just like Ethereum.
Okay.
So if you do the math and you look at, okay, so full Ethereum blocks on Ethereum, like if they're completely full, could be. Are you still there?
Yep, I'm still here.
Okay. Okay, no problem. Okay, so full Ethereum blocks could be 1,000 GUI, 2,000 GUI, and those are just ludicrous gas fees, right?
Okay.
So that's huge gas fees. Pulse chain will be sub zero or sub penny gas fees, and if the gas is being calculated the same way it is right now, which is I don't think there's any reason to change it. So you could have sub penny fees with like 10,000 GUI or like 100,000 GUI, right? You start getting to like maybe once you get like about 10,000 GUI,
Hmm.
like 10,000 to 100,000 GUI, depending on the price of actual Pulse,
Yeah.
you might talk like $1, like
Okay.
you might start paying. Um, so like a 10,000 GUI transaction gets you where you're. So I did the math on this before. So like a 10,000 GUI transaction, sending Pulse, which is 21,000 like gas. It's
Hmm.
all calculating GUI anyway, so you can do the math. So 10,000 multiplied by 21,000, then you get like two GUI. You have like two pulse. It's like 2.1 pulse, right? So how much is a pulse?
Yeah.
Okay, so say pulse is 10 cents, right? Which is like of all the estimates or whatever, like who knows when we're gonna hit 10 cents. But I'm saying it's 10 cents. Well, then transaction be 20 cents, and it's like 10,000 GUI. That would mean the blocks are completely filled. Or someone bid up the price. So
Hmm.
now you're being charged 20 cents for a transaction. But at the exact same time, Ethereum, for the same transactions, like for a
Would be
10,000
4 grand,
GUI
3 grand.
transaction for Ethereum, I mean, that's a lot. That's a pretty expensive transaction. So it would be the same thing. So it'd be the same cost, like two Ethereum,
Yeah, it was
right? That would
three
be a
grand right now.
$6,000 transaction for the same. Yeah, yeah. So if you treat them both the same, because they're both the gas prices are still being calculated the same. So a
Yeah.
10,000 GUI transaction on Ethereum would be like $6,000. A
Okay.
10,000 GUI transaction on Pulse, if it was right, if Pulse was like 10 cents, which is whatever,
Mhm.
right? Since it's starting so low with so much
Yeah.
supply, I don't know. I mean, could be like eventually anyway.
Yeah.
That's 20 cents, right? Or even save like Pulse is like $1, then you're paying $2. I mean, so like whatever number you have for a Pulse, theoretically, at some point in the future after we launch, the actual gas price is very, 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 very cheap relative to Ethereum.
Yeah.
Because what most people like, more people are understanding this now because the Ethereum Foundation is talking about it like every day, all day. We're talking about it all day, every day. All the admins are like reposting it. How Ethereum 2 merge doesn't change the way gas fees are calculated,
Nope.
because ETH 2 uses the L1 client, the same client that you use now. The all the RPCs for ETH 2, they're running through. I mean, the way MetaMask calculates pre um, pre-merge calculations and post-merge are exactly the same. I actually did a screenshot when GoAirlig changed from pre-merge to post-merge, and I did a day before, and then I did a day
Okay.
after, and the gas was exactly the same. They're changed. They're no way. They're in no way different. Oh, my kids are here.
Oh,
Hey, what's up? Oh, you're good. We're all done. Well, I'm not done with my interview yet. You can hang out. Okay, go use the bathroom. All right, but
I
okay,
guess we'll
5
have to
minutes
wrap
and
it
then I
up.
have to go.
All
5
right.
minutes. Go use the bathroom and then I'm gonna get off of here. How about that? Okay, 5 minutes. Use the bathroom. Okay. All right. Okay. Hey, go with your brother. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Use the bathroom. Thank you. Oh, they went to the trampoline park, and so I'm right in front of the building, and they decided it's ready for them to go home.
Right on.
So
I
yeah,
appreciate you taking this time to talk about all this alpha about actual coding and the infrastructure behind Paul's chain. It's funny, I actually wanted to dive on more with you a little bit, but I guess maybe we'll have to schedule a second one to do a little
we
bit
can do another interview, and I'll try and do it when the kids aren't at a trampoline park.
more. That sounds like a good plan. That sounds a good plan because yeah, I wanted to dive a little deeper into the ETH merge slash fork.
Yeah, I can go
That's
into
what's
that
happened.
more detail. But it's been an hour, and I got my kids I have to deal with.
Yeah, and then also like on top of that, I wanted to dive in the evolution of what the devs have done from version 2 to the current Golang that they're working on that you have seen. So we'll save all that
Yeah,
for Mark
I
2.
have the same stuff that I've said in voice chat. I can just talk about it on camera. It's fine. It's pretty basic things. Like I started to get into it a little bit where you talk about system transactions being feeless,
Mm-hmm.
and then if they're feeless and the transactions for validating and slashing are inside the EVM or inside blocks and they're feeless, could that possibly be something that maybe possibly the devs like saw as an attack vector and they're fixing?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's one theory that I have, because I know for a fact they made system contract like transactions feeless,
Mm-hmm.
and if all that's inside of the blockchain, then you have a block, and then like if this amount is the transaction system transactions, then some person could fill them all up, and then that would stall the network, because
Yeah.
nobody. I mean, the network would technically still be producing blocks, but
Yeah.
nobody could put any blocks. Like
Well,
nobody
it
could put
goes.
transactions in the blocks. So for everybody using the network, it would be stalled.
Yeah,
But
it goes back
I don't
right
know if
to.
that's yeah.
Well,
I
yeah,
just
it
want
goes
to say
right back to the inherent problem with Filecoin. Like, if you're trying to put too much data in the blocks, if you can spam the blocks, the network stalls. It's that simple.
yeah. So I don't know for sure that's what happened, but
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of a working theory, and it'll
Okay.
be proven or disproven as soon as I get a client update with like
Okay.
the actual changes. And so I'm like, I hope I'm right about that, because I'm not trying to go on a limb over here. I'm trying to be very conservative. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I think maybe that could be that seemed like a very plausible general blockchain type of attack vector. And so we're like, we'll see. It makes sense to me. It's
Mm-hmm.
made sense to other people that kind of understand this stuff too. So we will have to wait for V3, mainnet, V3 or mainnet, and then get a client update, and then maybe a dev will like tell me what they changed.
All right.
I mean, hopefully, like after mainnet, I hope anyway, the devs are more open about what's going on. They start pushing changes to the main repo more frequently. and like we can get a more open communication with like actually build a dev community. Because right now we have like the devs, core devs, and then like everybody else.
Yeah.
And we're right, and so maybe we can like long term. I hope that can be fixed. That communication can be opened a little bit.
I
It'd
think
be
that would
great.
be cool to see. Really cool to see. I just want to make sure I've got your socials right for everyone
Sure.
here at the internet. We've got Twitter at Gamma on Crypto,
Yep.
T.me at BlockFaction, and BlockFaction.io.
That's it. Yeah. There's no colon, but that's like a regular URL. So T.me /BlockFaction, and that's my Twitter or that's my Telegram channel group. Join there. Get on my Twitter account. I'm almost to 1,000 followers, so that's cool. So plus me up, and then and then my website has my pricing, and like as soon as mainnet goes live, I'll turn it on. I'll accept crypto. Obviously like all the Richard Hart crypto and like Ethereum and USDC and USDT and all that stuff. Trying to be flexible,
Okay.
or you can go through a payment provider. You know what I mean? Like through Stripe is who I'm going to be using, and all that'll be turned on after mainnet goes live. I'm not. There's no token. There's no sacrifice. It's a traditional business that's just taking subscriptions to provide a service to the community. That's it.
Love it.
And then chat with me. Get on voice chat. I can. Oh, and another thing, I can do a voice chat in Block Faction Telegram group if I have some interest and some questions that need to be answered. I can. Like that's no problem at all for me.
I do love the Telegram AMAs. Thank you so much for coming on
Cool.
today and dropping
Okay.
all this. And I can't wait to actually have you back on again. I'm going to let you take off because I have a feeling your kids are going to appear any moment. It's been those 5 minutes.
Yeah, no, I got to track them down because they went back inside. So let me go see if they're good, and then we're out of here.
Thanks for coming on, and happy hunting.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Take care.
Bye.
All right. And anyone who's actually stuck around all the way for me, these are my socials again, Top Gun at Twitter and T.me, Top Gun Crypto School, where you teach me about crypto, not me teaching you. I just got into the sphere in November. Now let's have a look at the comments. There's been a few of these throughout the show. Anything I can do? Good morning. Good morning. Hey, Paul. Good to see you. Just for a walk in the park. Well, thanks for tuning in, guys. I love to always see you guys actually show up and say hello. Sorry I haven't been making so much content lately, but bear market and busy trying to earn cash. So now I'm trying to get a little more time to it as I'm getting caught up on work. Hope you guys have enjoyed the show. And I'll have to touch base with Jim Rat Crypto because I might be appearing over there tomorrow. We'll see how it goes. Thanks for tuning in, folks. And until next time, stay frosty.